There has been a tier list or a league table of the best open source models, which I thought was worth having a look at because there's a couple of interesting points here. This is not by any means like the ultimate list. This is from a company called Interconnects. So Interconnects work with all of these open models, so they have tried them all out and therefore they're giving their opinion on this. So that's what it is, but honestly, that's what all league tables and tier lists tend to be anyway. The winner, or the winners actually, I think it's fair to say that the winner is China. The top model is DeepSeek, followed by Qwen, followed by Kimi. The next ones are also Chinese. All models in contention for best open source model of the year are from the Chinese labs. There are some noteworthy ones here like Mistral, Google, Llama. NVIDIA are very interesting in this scene because they're giving away a huge amount of their models. They don't just give away the weights, but they give away their training processes. They give away absolutely everything, so that's a cool one. But I think the main takeaway is China has taken this. I don't even see Facebook. Where are they? Oh, there they are. They have an honourable mention at the bottom. So Meta make the Llama models, but as of this year, they have indicated that they're no longer going to be releasing their Llama models open source, and instead they're going to be closing off. We haven't seen a new model from them for months. After Mark Zuckerberg spent hundreds of millions pulling engineers from other companies, they haven't actually released anything. Winning models, DeepSeek R1. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. The Qwen 3 family, the new default open models, and Kimi K2 from Moonshot, which we had the most impressive release of that just a few months ago, about a month ago. But it's more than just DeepSeek, huh? So models that convinced the world that DeepSeek wasn't special and China would produce numerous leading models. Chinese labs are putting out bangers, open sourcing them. Use it, fine tune it, deploy it on your own computer or on your own server. Do what you want with it, which is very different to what is happening in America. It's very different to what's happening with the closed source models, where they are locking down and disallowing people from tinkering, from building with the models themselves. Instead, you need to pay a subscription or the API. These are different business models and software development paradigms as well. I've covered quite extensively why China are doing this, and I think it's a number of things. I think there's a soft power play. If you make your models really good and you make them widely available in the developing world outside of America and Europe, even in America and Europe, there is a certain cachet, a certain power that comes from that, because people will start to use these Chinese models. They're being used in American startups as well. There was a report on Y Combinator applicants and people who were building in the YC program, and a lot of them were using Chinese open source models, which again makes sense because you can tinker, you can build upon those models. Whereas with OpenAI, with Anthropic, with Google, Gemini, not so much. There's a power play there. They get better the more feedback they get from the development community. The labs get to push forward as well. They're doing a good job, and we need to watch this space. This guy, Nathan Lambert, put a few predictions. As we're moving into 2026, it's time for predictions. He says scaling will continue with open models. There's a big question right now of whether the large language models will hit a plateau or whether we can continue with this exponential scaling. We have things like the ARC AGI2, for example. Just trying to think, let's have a look at this one. We got this a few days ago, about 5.2. You can see everything is getting better. GPT 5.2 is up here. This is just one benchmark, but there is no plateauing currently seen in the development of these models. It depends on what you're measuring, etc., etc. But right now we are continuing to see that they are getting better as we make the models bigger and put more compute into them. Some people are saying it is going to plateau. They have good reason for saying this. We're not going to reach artificial general intelligence this way. However, given more compute, making the models bigger seems to be working well. It won't always work, probably, until it stops, until we hit that plateau, until we hit that kind of leveling out. We might as well just keep pushing compute into it. That's the argument that OpenAI and everyone else is making. So Nathan here is saying scaling will continue with open models, so they'll get bigger and better through 2026. No substantive changes in the open model safety narrative. So part of the problem, or I think, okay, Llama is a good one here. So Llama is a meta model. It's created by Meta, Facebook, and Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg. One of the reasons why they're saying, oh, actually, we're gonna close source this, we're gonna bring this in-house, is because of the risk of putting open source models into the hands of anybody. So a lot of people will say, oh, we should make these models open source to distribute power, and it's not just in the hands of billionaires. This technology is available for everyone. Once we give everyone these powerful technologies, what happens when bad people use it for bad purposes, which they can with an open source model. Geoffrey Hinton has been saying these AIs are very powerful, but we must not let them get into the hands of normal people, because there are bad actors out there and they are going to use them to develop weapons. They're going to use them to hack for all kinds of nefarious deeds. You can do that with an open source model. Much harder with a closed source model, because it's everything that you do with it is running through their servers. Participation will continue to grow. This is his third prediction. I think this is fair, especially in businesses. There is still a lot of hesitancy when it comes to using Chinese models. This, especially in America, there's justified suspicion, but also unjustified racism when it comes to relationships between America and China. These models are really good, and they are, for the most part, free, which is quite a strong argument to make. Yes, you need to host them on your own server. Yes, you need to have your own compute, etc. But it's cheaper than using a frontier lab state-of-the-art model from OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google. Ongoing general trends will continue with hybrid attention, dense for fine-tuning. That's fine. Yeah, they'll continue to develop them. Open source frontier gap will stay roughly the same on public benchmarks. The state-of-the-art models like OpenAI's ChatGPT 5.2, Anthropic's Opus 4.5, and Gemini 3, they are still better. The closed source models are better than the open source models. Let's have a look at artificial analysis.ai, for example. When we look at the intelligence scale, again, there's many different ways to deal with this, but when we look at this, at the moment we have Gemini 3 at the top, followed by ChatGPT 5.2, followed by Anthropic 4.5, followed by ChatGPT, followed by Kimi, so that's open source. Interestingly, that's K2, I think, followed by DeepSeek XAI, and then Anthropic. The best models are still the closed source models, and that's what we've seen continuously. It makes sense too, because there's just a huge amount of money being thrown into those models, and that's the for-profit model as well. So the open source ones are always a bit behind. Nathan is saying that will continue. Whether or not that matters will be a debate, because as models become, the difference between using something incredibly smart and something incredibly smart is narrowing, especially for the majority of tasks that we use AI for in the day-to-day. If it's moving data from a spreadsheet, parsing it for sentiment, and then moving it into a database, we already have models that can do that well. So we don't necessarily need something that's even better. So it's going to be more about what can we do for a lower cost and still get a very high result. You do not need to use Opus 4.5 on the majority of our tasks. It is utter overkill. And as the models get better, that is going to continue to be the case, because the tasks that we as humans use AI for are not stepping up at the same speed as the AI. Final prediction, no Llama-based open models from Meta in 2026. Meta indicated this with their last Llama model. They said, oh yeah, this is probably going to be the last one. No official announcement. Seems like they were rethinking their strategy, bringing things in-house and making them closed models instead, which basically removes America from the open source game entirely. Yes, OpenAI have a open source model. They have GPT OSS. It's not very good. Nobody really uses it because there are much better ones, and it felt like a token gesture. America has stepped back from the open source race. We have Mistral over in America, over in France, so that they're still open source. But apart from that, this is basically a Chinese game. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes. If you have not deployed an open source model, I highly recommend doing it, even if you're not going to use it, just to learn how it is done. You can do it on your telephone. If you have an iPhone, you can download an app called Locally AI. On Locally AI, you can download models. The models are 2 or 3 gigabytes. They sit on your phone. It's fully disconnected from the servers, so it is fully local on your telephone, and you can talk to it on your phone. If you have a computer and you want to deploy it on your Mac or PC, you can use LM Studio. I use lmstudio.ai. There's another one, but I use LM Studio on my Mac, and there will be others on PC as well. And again, you download the application. It will look something like this, which looks a bit intimidating, but there will be a button to load a model that will download Kimi, Qwen, DeepSeek onto your computer and run it. It's pretty easy to do. And even if you are not necessarily going to use it, I think it's quite a good exercise just to see how simple it can be to do. It seems like technical wizardry. It is not. It's relatively easy now. Let's hop over to some questions. My comments are blocking it. So if you're on TikTok, head over to YouTube if you want the full screen. So there's a couple of problems with TikTok. If I make my screen share too large, it thinks that I am like pirating movies. So if I have a screen share and it's over what it looks like on TikTok right now, then TikTok will flag it up as me sharing like unauthorized content. So I've had to experiment to make it smaller and smaller until TikTok was like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, so sorry. Otherwise, TikTok basically throttled the stream and say, no, you're being naughty. And I kept getting told off and sent a message saying, I'm showing my websites, my stuff. Doesn't matter. So that's why it looks like that on TikTok. Can't believe OpenAI is so low. Do you mean in this tier list? This is specifically open source models. The open source model from OpenAI is not very good compared to the Chinese one. Let's look at the open source leaderboard. OpenLLM. Oh, archived? No, fine-tuned ones. I can't find it now, but this one. Oh, okay. OSS has done quite well. This is in reasoning, so GPQA. So this is showing Kimi K2 is the top one, followed by GPT-OSS from ChatGPT. I'm really interested. Have they not? I would expect DeepSeek to beat it. I don't know this website though, so I can't speak to it. There we go. It's a better one. Go to artificial analysis, then open source. They have ranked, and we need to take these with a pinch of salt. They've got Kimi, DeepSeek, Minimax, followed by OpenAI, followed by DeepSeek again, DeepSeek, Alibaba, ServiceNow, I don't know that one. ZAI is Chinese, Alibaba is obviously Chinese. So there is an OpenAI one, GPT-OSS 120B High. Great names, aren't they? Which is sitting at 4th position. It's not bad, but not as good as the Chinese models. This is not the app experience in general. This is not even the models. This is purely the open source models. So the app experience is a whole another thing. And OpenAI, I agree, probably have the best one there. I personally use Claude the most as my kind of day-to-day AI, but Claude doesn't make images. It doesn't do anything with video. It doesn't have the ability to show Claude what you are seeing and get responses from it like you can with ChatGPT. The voice mode in Claude is basically dictation, so it's a very limited app compared to ChatGPT. So ChatGPT definitely nails it in the kind of consumer level app experience. What I was talking about is more like the API and open source API. Ryan says, just checking in to say hello, keep up solid work. Thank you, Ryan. As I said, there's not much news today, not many releases. So I want to look at a few negative things about AI. I'm very balanced when it comes to artificial intelligence. I'm not one of these people who's all, this is the best thing ever, and it's going to change our lives, and we're going to be sitting on the beach, drinking Mai Tais with our universal income. I'm not a doomer, I'm somewhere in between. So there's a couple of articles that I found which are on the impact of artificial intelligence on jobs. And I think this is something that we do need to reckon with, especially if you are in a job and that job is potentially at risk from artificial intelligence. It is time to start thinking about what you can do about that. I know a lot of people are just shoving their head into the sand, and that's not really going to work because your job, company, or your industry may not exist in the next couple of years. And I found a few little examples, and these are brand new. It's a brand new article, 15th of December. This is yesterday. Google AI summaries are ruining the livelihood of recipe writers. This is a very specific niche, but I think a useful lens through which to see the larger impacts of artificial intelligence. AI is mangling recipes by merging instructions from multiple creators, causing huge dips in ad traffic, specifically Google. Let's put vegan lasagna recipe into Google. Oh, where's my AI? That didn't work well. If I wasn't doing a live stream, it would show me the recipe at the top here, but it is not. Now that is strange. I doubt that this is in response to this to this Guardian article, but that is very strange. So there's also AI mode, which you can click on, but that's me cheating. Normally, when I'm not on the live stream, it would show at the top the recipe directly. Let me see if I can get it on my phone, because that is bizarre. And what's happening is Google are pulling this information from websites. Google has indexed the world's websites. That's what they've been doing for decades. Lasagna recipe didn't work on there either, so I don't know what's happening. Google are pulling all that information from the world's websites and using that to feed their artificial intelligence, and then to serve up that information at the top of Google search results, or in this AI mode like this. Let's do it without recipe. Let's do what can we do? Best Xmas presents for nerds. Okay, I do not know what's happening. Oh, here we go. Here's my AI overview. It's down here for some reason. I've put in best Christmas presents for nerds. The top result is Reddit. Cool. I could click and see what people are saying on Reddit. more and more is this will be shown in the AI overview. So it says the best Christmas are things like tech gadgets, hobby-related items, building kits like Airfix, immersive experience board games like Wingspan, unique apparel and decor. These are all things that I want. So yes, it's got it right. Personalized by considering their specific interest, whether it's space, coding, fantasy, gaming, or science, all of those, etc. And then it has these things here. This one is not actually a shopping link, but it could be. These are links which will search for Raspberry Pi in general. And can you see some of these have links here? If I click, it's telling me the sources. This has come from Reddit. Can you recommend a unique gift for a nerd? Another one from Reddit. The 19 best Christmas gifts for science lovers from The New Scientist. Another Reddit, etc., etc. So it's got all of this information from these websites, and it's telling me what websites it got it from. Now, normally, these websites make money by me going to those websites. That's how publishers make money on the internet. So the New York Times here will, if I go to there, maybe they can get a subscription from me. This YouTube here, if I go there, then the person who's put together that YouTube video they'll get cash for me watching that video because adverts are shown on that video. Reddit also has adverts. New Scientist, maybe they can get a subscription. Maybe there might be ads on there as well. I'm not sure. So that's how these publishers make their money usually. What's happening is people are no longer clicking on these links because I can now look at this and be like, oh, cool, yeah, Raspberry Pi, and then click on this, and then boom, it's going to start telling me about Raspberry Pi. It's going to try to sell them to me. I did not have to click on that website. People publishing this information are losing their advertising revenue. We're talking things like banner ads. We're talking the ability to get people into your email list and then serve them up ads from third parties or sell them your own products. We're talking about the ability to retarget people. So once somebody lands on your website, you can pixel them and send adverts. All of that is undercut by Google showing this on their search page. There is no need for me to go down this page to Polygon or uncommongoods.com. I'm just going to read the AI overview. And this is hurting certain industries. So if I am a recipe writer, so this is what this Guardian article is about, I rely on you clicking to come to my website. So let's have a look. Vegan lasagna recipe. We've got different websites here. One pot, Lucy and lentils. Lucy wants me to click on her website. There we go. This is an advert. That's an award she's won. I actually have my ad block on. Let me turn my ad block off and see what happens. I hate turning my ad block off. Has she got any ads? No. So I think the way she makes money is we'll sign up to her newsletter, and then she'll sell us adverts. She also has a work with me, so you can hire her for stuff like that. But now, if I can find the vegan lasagna recipe on Google without having to click through to Lucy's site, then Lucy's going to lose revenue. And that's happening across the recipe industry. But it's not just recipes. This is everything. If you publish information online and you've relied on people coming to your websites for you to make sales, adverts, for you to do affiliate marketing, for you to do anything that relies on mass volumes of internet traffic, that is now at risk. This article is people complaining about it. It's not fair, which I agree, it's not. They have written down their recipes. ChatGPT, Google, Anthropic, everyone has come in, scraped those recipes, put them into a vector database, and now those answers can be served up via artificial intelligence. And in some cases, it's actually better than searching for recipes. Because if you go looking for recipes, sometimes you go on a website that's just covered with ads. It's really annoying. It's not the right recipe. It's for the wrong number of people. It's in Fahrenheit instead of centigrade. It's a bit annoying and there's extra work. ChatGPT can make that easier. It can tailor the recipe to exactly what you need. You say, hey, I've got 12 people coming over. I need a vegan lasagna. It cannot contain nuts because somebody is allergic to nuts. Oh, and I only have an Aga. I don't have a normal oven. Can you help me? A static website with a static recipe cannot do that, whereas ChatGPT can. So it's a reason why a lot of people are using this. It's really useful. It's a really good experience. But it does mean that these people who have relied on this for their money for years, decades, are in trouble. So this article, I'll put it in the newsletter, but it's basically people complaining about that and saying it's not fair. I agree, it is not fair. That does not mean that it's going to change anything. And you see this with AI artists and VFX. Just because it's not fair doesn't mean you can just bury your head in the sand and ignore it and hope that somebody somewhere is going to come and say, no, this is awful, we're going to stop all of this. That's not going to happen. It's a Pandora's box that has been opened. The technology is out there. Even if OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, XAI, all of them were like, okay, we made a mistake, we're stopping it. It would not matter because the models are now open sourced. Anyone can download one and deploy it on their own device. The Pandora's box has been opened, so it cannot be put back. There are multiple copies of these weights all over the world. It's not going away. Complaining about it not being fair and the ethics of it being trained on your information and not being able to get people to your website is irrelevant at this point. This is happening. So the question is, what do we do now? I noticed at the bottom of this article, you need to lean into the more human. Here we go. As more people become aware of the amount of AI slop on the internet and how to identify it, Critchlow believes they will develop a greater appreciation for content produced by humans. People will ultimately place a higher premium on being able to know these recipes have been tested by somebody I follow and somebody I respect that I like. I think this is not just in recipes, not just in online publishing, but I think this is the key to surviving and thriving as we move into this AI world, is to become known as a person who does something. And that comes from producing content, educating people, helping people, and making yourself known as the person who does whatever it is you want to be known for is going to be super important. And that's public speaking, recording videos, writing books, creating content by teaching people. It's putting yourself in a linchpin position where people know you as a human. That's what differentiates you from artificial intelligence and allows you to weather whatever is coming. This is everything. Because when everyone becomes amorphous and their tasks can be done by an artificial intelligence, what is going to differentiate you from that is by being a person. You need to make yourself as much of a person as possible. You need to be known as a person to cut through the noise. That's why I recommend to people that they start recording, they start making content, they start talking about it, what they do, they start learning how to public speak, really valuable, leaning into the human elements that AI cannot do in a dramatic way. I think that's the safest moving forward. I'm probably wrong, but that's what I'm doing personally, and that's what I highly recommend other people do as well. I'm going to hop over to some questions. Hey Garni, how are you? I saw your post, Lee's Time 100. Actually, no, just need the Time 100 cover. Okay, let's do an AI overview. Where is it? It's a terrible cover too. I don't know who designed it, but so a couple of days, Time announced that the person of the year is artificial intelligence, or technically the architects of artificial intelligence. Hilariously, this led to on one of the betting sites, there's what do you call it, like micro betting, where you can, oh my God, so much to click. Time added a very annoying AI. That's very annoying. Finally, I've got the image. Time announced that the person of the year is AI/the architects of AI. So it's a group of people, and they released 2 different covers. And this caused a lot of confusion on Polymarket, one of the betting companies, because lots of people had bet that AI would be the person of the year. And Polymarket was like, no, it's either Polymarket or Cauchy, I forget. They said, actually, the person of the year is the architects of AI. It's these people here, not AI. So the fact that there were these 2 covers caused absolute chaos on the betting markets. The fact that we can bet on these things is in and of itself quite weird, but that's a talk for another time. So these are the people that they added here. Garni, who's in my TikTok channel right now, did a video on this specifically about Feifei Li. She should have got a bit more love. It's such a bizarre picture because it's hand-drawn. I think that's what they're trying to prove, but it's not very good. And the composition's all off. But what I found really annoying was that they'd pushed Feifei Li off the side. She's like in the border, but there's some extra edge here on the left of Mark Zuckerberg, so you could have just, everyone shift up a little bit. It's such a bizarre, odd image. But yeah, Time have said that the person of the year, persons of the year are the architects of AI. Let's be honest, who cares what they say? But it's nice of them to think they're relevant. Garni's saying it's hand-drawn. I think it's hand-drawn, but it's not very good. They look like they've been composited, pulled out of other images and stuck on there because everyone's sitting at weird angles. It looks like they've had photos taken on stage and somebody's composited them onto the girder. The whole thing looks odd. Morning, Nikki. Continuing the anti-AI day, I like to keep up to date with what the people who are against artificial intelligence are saying because, well, one, often they are right, they have good arguments, and we need to move ourselves out of our bubble. It's a really useful way to see how AI is impacting people personally. And this is a really good website for this. It's called Blood in the Machine, and they're doing a series called AI Killed My Job, which is fascinating, like whether you are pro or anti artificial intelligence. Real life stories about how AI is impacting people's working lives. So we have one on translators, one on tech workers and copywriters. Copywriters are specifically people who will write not only this, but they'll write like the copy for advertising. So if you've ever seen Mad Men, for example, when they create the text, when they come up with taglines, when they come up with the words that go into an advert, that's a copywriter. Copywriters also do things like websites. If I'm putting together a sales webpage, I used to hire a copywriter. If I was putting together an email sales sequence, I used to hire an email copywriter, and for a sales page, I'd probably pay £2,000, £3,000. I do not do that myself anymore. I use Claude. So Claude does all of my sales material. And that seems to be the case for a lot of people in the industry. So this blood in the machine, I was forced to use AI until the day I was laid off. Copywriters reveal how AI has decimated their industry. This is another story of AI making real impact industries. So a lot of people saying, oh no, it's not, no, it's just going to make new jobs and any jobs being lost by the impact of COVID or something like that. This is here. This is taking jobs. So copywriters were one of the first to have their jobs targeted by AI firms 3 years into the AI era. AI didn't kill my current job, but most of my job is now training AI to do a job I would have previously trained humans to do, he told me. This is somebody who's still got a job, Jacques. It's killed the job I used to have, which I used to climb into my current role. He was concerned for himself as well as for many of his junior peers. As he told me, I have no idea how entry-level developers, support agents or copywriters are supposed to become senior devs, support managers or marketers when the experience required to ascend is no longer available. This is a wide problem in legal firms. This is going to be a problem in any industry where you are expected to do grunt work for the first few years. When you are doing the grunt work for the seniors, you are putting in your reps. You are sharpening your weapons. You are learning how to do this stuff by just doing it again. So in legal professions, you're doing discovery. So it's a huge amount of research, for example. It's going through documentation and the legal statutes and working out how everything fits together. That's pattern matching based on huge corpuses of written data. That is something AI is really good at. So that's work taken from legal clerks. They're not going to have to do that anymore. We either need less legal clerks or find something else for them. They're not going to get the experience of spending thousands of hours doing that drudge work, which will hone their intuition and hone their ability to move up. That's just been taken away. And that's not just the case in legal. That's going to be the case in copywriting. You'll be doing less important copy, lots of variations, passing them up to a senior who will choose, refine, help you learn what good copy is versus what bad copy. Now an AI can spit out 100 different variations, which go straight to the senior. You can also have the AI run tests beforehand to find the first. You just put as many variations into Google ads or Facebook ads as possible and let the algorithm work out the best one. You do not necessarily need an entry-level person doing that grunt work. It's a huge issue in every industry. This is how AI impacts jobs. It does not wholesale replace a job. It's not that Stephen in accounts loses a job and there is a computer sitting on his desk and AI is taking his job. No, it's going to chip away at tasks inside of a job. And then when enough of those tasks have been removed from that job, we don't need to hire as many people. Labor is one of the biggest expenses for most businesses. And if you have a choice between getting the same amount of work done but having 10 times less people, it's a pretty easy choice when you're running a business. Those tasks are going to be chipped down. Let's say your job has 10 tasks and 7 of them be done by an AI, only 3 need a human. Over your organization, that kind of means we need to hire less people. Instead of hiring 10 people, we're going to hire 3 and have AI do the rest. It's going to be more insidious than just, it took my job. It's going to be, oh, it took my tasks, and then, oh, we don't need as many people. That's going to kick the bottom out from a lot of industries. When we checked back in with Jacques 6 months later, his company had laid him off. I was let go the week before Thanksgiving. Now that AI was good enough, Jacques helped train the AI that has now replaced him. He elaborated, chatbots came in and made it so my job was managing the bots instead of a team. Once the bots were sufficiently trained, I was out. I prided myself on being the best. The company was actually awarded a Best Support award by G2. We had a reputation for excellence that will now blend in with the rest of the pack of chatbots that may or may not have a human reviewing them and making tweaks. Yeah, so it looks like Jacques was bought into, his job became training his successor, and his successor was AI. And within 6 months, that AI was good enough to replace him, and you did not need that human person. And he says here, it's trained to offer good support. A lot of the time, the AIs can provide as good or superior, because a lot of people do hide behind this defense of, oh, I get that it's cheap and that's why I've been replaced. It's crap and I'm better. A lot of the time we're not. A lot of the time the AIs can do a better job than us. And when something can do a better job and it's cheaper, economically, there's no good reason to keep that person in play. For ethical reasons, 100%. But from a pure economic view, if the AI is better and cheaper, there's no reason to keep that human staff member. You either need to repurpose them within your organization or they get let go. And that's what we're going to see across a lot of industries. It is the reality of the situation. Here's a simple document in your work. Write your business idea. Jack says, what I want to see is the same people overseeing the AI and being 10 times more productive. So instead of AI replacement, we have AI augmentation, which means you can work with AIs and do a lot more. The person good at working with AIs, yeah, maybe their job is safe and they're doing 10 times as much. That means we don't need to hire as many people. We don't need as many people in the organization as a whole, because now we have 10x operators and working with artificial intelligence. So we can put a hiring freeze on, not bring in entry-level people, so we won't have people coming in later, because our seniors can now do 10 times the work. Why would we bother bringing in juniors? Obviously, forward thinking is, oh, we will need juniors because we need to train them up into seniors later. If that work has been taken and there's no work for juniors, how are they going to learn? Do we just give them work so they can learn even if they're slower and worse than the AIs? And then, so the counter argument to this will be, no, we're going to sell 10 times as much, do 10 times as much work. That relies on the economy growing. If a company is automating and doing really well, they're able to supply a huge amount more of whatever it is they do, whether it's a service, building stuff, whatever value they're providing. Now they're able to produce 10 times as much. The market needs to support that. There needs to be a demand for that. Otherwise, the price of what they are that supplying will collapse, especially for other industries. Other businesses are doing it as well. So we will require demand to increase at the same time as our ability to supply value. That is something we're definitely not seeing, because our economies are, in the West at least, they are stagnant. Like in the UK, they celebrate a 0.5% increase in GDP. That's nothing. Systemically, we need to produce demand. Otherwise, AI just leads to oversupply and value collapses. Jacques has relocated to Mexico, where the cost of living is cheaper, while he looks for new work. He's not optimistic. As he puts it, it's getting dark out there, man. So I'm going to put all of these stories, I'll link to them all actually, because they're quite interesting. I've got one on tech workers. These are anecdotal, obviously, but I think it is useful to remind ourselves that this is happening to real people. This is not just when we see those numbers on, 9,000 people axed from Microsoft due to AI. We have to remember that's 9,000 people with families heading into Christmas. So I think these anecdotal stories are useful, as long as we keep a grip of the larger picture. Garni says, have you read the AI as Normal technology paper? No, I have not. The Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University. I will read this. You always find the best papers. Are you still doing that series where you say these are the interesting pieces of media that I've read or watched? Because that was really cool. What are your views on the EU AI Act? I feel a bit sorry for them. Whatever regulation you're trying to put out, this is not EU. This is not specific to anyone. It's not even specific to AI. Whenever you're trying to regulate, it just takes time, a long process, because you need to find out what's going on, have discussions, and there are lots of committees, and then you draft up what your proposal is going to be, and then there's going to be rounds of changes, and different interest parties want different things changed, and you debate it, and blah, 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 and then eventually you release a draft, and everyone's, oh, we hate it, and then you go back to drawing board. 6 months later, you've got such, and boom, okay, yes, it's ready, we're going to get it signed, and boom, it's signed. 2 or 3 years in artificial intelligence is a lifetime. The public release of GPT-3 was 3 years ago, November 29th. A lot has changed in 3 years. But the rate at which regulation can be written and drafted and argued about and signed into law is not able to work on the timescales AI is progressing. So it means, but whatever they have ready, whether the regulation is great, whether the regulation is terrible, doesn't really matter. Whatever they have ready is going to be out of date by the time it comes out. They've even admitted that with the EU AI Act. They've said we need to go back to the drawing board. They are going to be removing some of the stipulations, some of the parts of it, because they realise the reality has shifted a lot in the last couple of years. I have no problems with the idea of regulating AI. I think it's just from a practical, pragmatic point of view, really difficult. The way the EU did it, I don't think is the best way, because it was a bunch of politicians who did not have technology backgrounds, who didn't really know what this technology was or what it meant, who were very proud of themselves to have regulated something that they didn't really understand. I don't agree with the way they did it. The end result was not impressive, nor practical or enforceable. There's a larger problem. We have the speed of AI. How do you write rules and laws around that? I don't think we don't do it. I think we should. It's just a really hard problem to overcome. Do politicians actually understand what AI is? Most of them do not. There's a video of Boris Johnson talking about ChatGPT. It's well worth looking up, actually, mainly for the way he says ChatGPT. But yeah, a lot of them they'll use ChatGPT maybe on a daily basis, not necessarily very well. Doesn't necessarily mean they have any understanding of what large language models are, what generative AI is, what AI as a whole is, what it can do for society, what it can't do for society. Those are much bigger questions. They will be briefed. They'll have smart people come in and brief them, but it is a very dense, complicated subject that has sprung up in the last 3 years and risen to a level of importance that a technology doesn't normally do in 3 years. It would have required them to have really been put in the study to work out what the hell is going on and what this means for society. And I don't see that in the majority of politicians. There is one guy, he's a Labour MP, and there's something of AI. I've forgotten his name. Mark Sewards, that was funny. A few months ago, this guy called Mark Sewards put up an AI avatar of himself. And I remember shooting a video being like, oh, this isn't going to go well for you, Mark. It did not go well for Mark. He had to take it down after a few days. There's a guy who vibe coded a website, and I've totally forgotten his name. I'm sorry. Labour MP vibe coded. I'm not going to be able to find him. I thought it was cute because he did a little video of himself and how he'd vibe coded a website and how he'd built this thing. And at least he is engaging with the technology and trying it out. The site's not very good, but that's not the point. There's something new here. There's something I need to be on top of. He used Cursor. He downloaded Cursor, built a website. That's what we need, politicians learning what this stuff means on a practical point of view, not just from reading about it in the newspaper, not just from having some think tank deliver them a report to them. They need to get their hands dirty with it. I doubt many politicians are. I won't do that because it's gouging. RAMs are becoming very scarce. Ben says, what country has an AI minister? That is Albania. It's an anti-corruption tool. Her name is Diela. Has an Albanian person tell me how to say it. I've forgotten already. Diela. It is an anti-corruption procurement officer, basically. So you go through the process of talking to this bot in order to deal with governmental procurement, because a lot of corruption was happening and a lot of procurement that was happening that was false. They've put it through an AI, which makes sense. Putting an AI into your procurement process to remove corruption makes sense because you're removing the human element. However, the Prime Minister went further and appointed her a cabinet minister. She's a cabinet member. He started talking about how she's had children because they created multiple instances of this AI and assigned them to different parts of government. But again, he was anthropomorphizing and saying she's just had 60 children now working on different government departments. It's a weird way to do it, but the ideas probably make sense. And using AI in government, if it's used well, is going to allow for removal of human interference, which can lead to things like corruption. So I think the intentions are good. I think the way it's being done is a bit showboaty. This is Edi Rama, the Prime Minister. I haven't heard of any results of it. I assume, like a lot of these flagship AI projects, it's just not used and nobody ever talks about it, and it just made a few headlines and that's the end of it. Yeah, Ben, corruption prevention is a decent use case. It really is. Like when you actually look into what they're using it for, it's like, oh, okay, it's a procurement tool. You go through this AI to say, I need 50 laptops for my department. Can you help me buy the 50 laptops? So instead of those 50 laptops disappearing or the money going in a brown envelope to some supplier who's actually your cousin, it's all going through an AI. I don't know why it had to be given a face, a cabinet ministerial position. It might just be Edi Rama's way of saying, hey, I've had enough of the corruption. I'm going to put a computer in charge. I don't know the full politics of it. Although I'm sure it was somebody's cousin who built the AI system and some money changed hands. I'm going to finish up for the day. Vibing with Ed says, when I speak to people in government, a few understand how AI will affect society. Yeah, it's complex. It's complex. He's saying that if we had a timeline that aliens were landing in 3 years' time, and we knew the aliens were coming, we didn't necessarily know their intentions, but we know that they're going to turn up. So if you watch The Three Body Problem, there's a point where the aliens are like, we're coming. And you have a certain amount of time. If we knew that as a society, we would panic. And then we would work out, okay, what the hell are we going to do about this? That's not happening with AI. We don't have a set deadline for when AGI arrives, if it arrives. But we have a very strong suspicion that something that is going to be as intelligent as us, maybe more intelligent than us, will exist in the next decade or so. That's something that if it was aliens, if it was coming from outer space, we would bloody well going to get on with doing something about it. Right now, I think everybody's still got their heads firmly jammed into the sand and they're ignoring the problem. And that's politicians, that is business owners, that is employees, that is everybody. It's either a toy, which is cool, or it's something that you don't like because it's personally a threat to you, but we're not thinking about the larger ramifications for society. These are questions we need to ask, and I don't think the politicians are. Interestingly, though, the Pentagon set up a steering committee, or they have to set up a steering committee with the new NDAA. So the Pentagon has been ordered to form an AI steering committee on AGI. So this suggests they're taking it seriously. I looked it up as well. The head of the committee does come from a tech background. So he has a degree in computer science, one in engineering. I think his PhD's in engineering. So he is, at least on paper, he's an engineer and a scientist, which is good, because if you just have these steering committees and it's a bunch of political lay people, politicians who've never had a job and don't come from the sciences, what are they going to do? They don't know about this. But at least this Pentagon committee is run by a scientist. So that gives me a little bit of hope in whatever they come up with. I don't trust any decisions made in the Department of War. Oh yeah, it got renamed, didn't it? We're not going down that rabbit hole. 100% the reason they are having this discussion is to do with war, because you've seen the robots. The Chinese company, I forget the company, but they did the demonstration of the T800 the other day. T800? Calling it, yeah, this is it, T800. Calling it T800 is very Terminator. The demonstration, they had it kicking down a door. They're starting to say the quiet part out loud. The quiet part is, we're going to give these things guns and put them into combat zones. Previously, Boston Dynamics and all the robotics companies have been not saying that part because people will be like, oh my God, that's terrifying. But obviously that's what they're working towards. And they have huge amounts of military investment. But the Chinese have started to show demos of robots kicking down doors and kind of combat rolling through windows. It's where it's heading. Same with drones. iRobot went bankrupt. And iRobot's an American company which has been put out of business, according to iRobot, by all of the Chinese robotics. iRobot created Roomba years ago. But ever since then, the Chinese manufacturers have been able to make much, much cheaper versions of the products that are arguably better. If something is cheaper and better, you do not survive in a capitalist market. So, yeah, US listed company whose profits have been in decline since the pandemic will be taken over by Paisia. Is Paisia a Chinese company? Paisia, it's the largest ODM of the Chinese. Will be acquired by its contract manufacturer, Paisia Robotics. So iRobot outsourced all of their manufacturing to this company, Paisia, and now Paisia are purchasing them. This is what happened with things like motorbikes in the 1970s and 80s. Motorbike production was outsourced to Japan, and Japan very quickly learned how to make really good motorbikes, and then they took over the market with Honda and Yamaha. So nobody's learned. This is also what's happened with chips. The West, America in particular, have outsourced chip manufacturing to China and to companies like Qualcomm and Foxconn. And then those companies got really good at manufacturing the chips, and now they are the foremost creators of chips. So exactly the same thing has happened, and people do not learn. This is too funny. So the Chinese-based company assumed iRobot's $190 million loan earlier this month, and under the terms of iRobot's restructuring, will waive the debt. That's because they now own it themselves, along with 161.5 million iRobot owns it for manufacturing its robots. Okay. In return, Paisia will own iRobot in its entirety. So Paisia is actually called Shenzhen Paisia Robotics. Yeah. All right, I'm not going to get into China and robots now, but that's for another time. Thank you, everyone. I'm hopping off, and I'll see you in the morning for more AI news and updates. Make sure you are subscribed to the newsletter and join the community as well, where we're discussing what happened on the show and in general, talking about AI and how to get ready. Thanks.